Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Gopijana Balava Giribaradhare. Gopijana Balava Giribaradhare. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachare. Yamunatira Vanachare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Gopijana Balava Giribaradhare. Gopijana Balava Giribaradhare. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachare. Yamunatira Vanachare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jai Prabhupada Jai, Prabhupada Jai, Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Nishtavad Paramahansa Parivrajakacharis Tadas Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki, Shri Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I hope everyone can hear clearly. It's loud enough. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 6. Brahma satisfies Lord Shiva. Verse 35. Vidya tapo yoga patam astitam tam adishvaram charantam vishva suridam vatsalyal loka mangalam vidyatapo yoga patam astitam tam adhishvaram charantam vishvasuridam vatsalyal loka mangalam vidyatapo yoga patam astitam tam adhishvaram charantam vishvasuridam vatsalyal loka mangalam vidyatapo yoga patam astitam tam adhishvaram charantam vishvasuridam Vatsalya Loka Mangala. Mataji's. Vidya, knowledge. Tapa, austerity. Yoga patam, the path of devotional service. Astitam, situated. Tam, him, Lord Shiva. Adhishvaram, the master of the senses. Charantam, performing, austerity, etc. Vishvasuridam, the friend of the whole world. Vatsalyat, out of full affection. Lokamangalam, auspicious for everyone. Translation: the demigod saw Lord Shiva situated in his perfection as the master of the senses, knowledge, fruit of activities, and the path of achieving perfection. He was the friend of the entire world, and by virtue of his full affection for everyone, he was very auspicious. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shiva is full of wisdom and tapasya, austerity. One who knows the modes of work is understood to be situated on the path of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead unless one has achieved full perfectional knowledge in the ways and means of performing devotional service. Lord Shiva is described here as Adishvara. Ishvara means controller, and Adishvara means particularly controller of the senses. Generally, our materially contaminated senses are apt to engage in sense gratificatory activities. But when a person is elevated by wisdom and austerity, the senses then become purified and they become engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is the emblem of such perfection. And therefore in the scriptures it is said, Vaishnavanam yata Shambhu. Lord Shiva is a Vaishnava. Lord Shiva, by his actions within this material world, teaches all conditioned souls how to engage in devotional service 24 hours a day. Therefore he is described here as Lokamangala, good fortune personified for all conditioned souls. Vidyatapo yoga patam astitam tam adishvaram charantam vishvasuridam vatsalya lokamangalam. The demigod saw Lord Shiva situated in his perfection as the master of the senses, knowledge, fruit of activities, and the path of achieving perfection. He was the friend of the entire world, and by virtue of his full affection for everyone, he was very auspicious. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchkalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha, Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, so Lord Brahma has taken the demigods to approach Lord Shiva and beg forgiveness for their direct and indirect offenses. Someone like Daksha himself, or there were a few others, Pusha, I think was it, and Bhagya. They had performed direct offenses of just expressing themselves directly, voluntarily, in opposition to Lord Shiva. Not just opposition, but antagonism towards Lord Shiva and extreme disrespect, what belittlement, trying to belittle Lord Shiva. What offenses they've committed. It's astonishing, actually. And we must all pray never to become implicated in such things ourselves. I know you're all sincere devotees, but you never know what circumstances may arise. So we should pray, among many other things, we should pray that we can always remain respectful towards the devotees and ultimately towards all living entities. Otherwise, the difficulty you can put yourself in is just too much, just far too much. So there was those who directly, like Daksha, he initiated the whole offense. And then there were those who jumped on his bandwagon and started agreeing with him. But then there were just others who did not object. And they were not necessarily feeling as Daksha and his immediate associates were feeling, but they permitted, they didn't stop the process of offense from going on. So indirectly they're also implicated, and it was just a great crisis and terrible disaster for all involved. So here they are, they've gone to Kailash, headed by Lord Brahma, who is the father of Lord Shiva. Yeah, he's the father of Lord Shiva. So he has a very high position, Lord Brahma. He's worthy of being listened to by Lord Shiva. Others, they're in junior positions, so they cannot really come forward so much. Yes, so they've gone, and here they are. They see Lord Shiva. And he is just, you could say, emanating auspiciousness in different ways. Just radiating auspiciousness and wonderfulness, beauty, and like heroic nature and compassionate nature, very affectionate nature. He was, as is stated here, he was the friend. They could see he was Vishva Suridam. Vishva means the universe or the entire world. Suridam, friend. He was the friend of the entire world. And he was Vatsalyal. He had full affection. Out of full affection, he was just radiating this type of appearance, this type of mood. Of course, I think we all know that Vatsalya rasa in pure devotional service on the very highest levels of perfection, Vatsalya means a parental mood, very, very much a parental mood. And parental means protective. Parental means nourishing. Parental means encouraging. Parental means correcting. These are all different aspects of a parental mood. And Lord Shiva, he's so senior, just in that sense. He's so senior that he is in the position, a parental type of position, to all these demigods who are coming to approach him and appeal to him for mercy. And because of that, as Prabhupada puts it in the translation, by virtue of his full affection for everyone, his Vatsalya mood, he was very auspicious. Yes, just so much auspiciousness, and whichever way you look at him or think of him, his character, his characteristics, just his physical appearance, it's all of it is endowing the observer, the person who associates with him, just endowing them with auspiciousness in all sorts of ways in their lives. Because actually, Shiva means, at least one of the main meanings of Shiva is auspicious. Yeah. And Srila Jiva Goswami explains that sometimes it happens in the Vedic scriptures that there is mention of Shiva, but it's actually referring to Krishna, because Krishna is the most auspicious. He is the most pure. Shiva also indicates extreme purity. So sometimes the term is used for Krishna himself, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And certainly Lord Shiva is Shiva. He definitely is. So they saw him sitting, and just showing his nature, situated in his perfection, means it was clear this is how he is. His perfection as master of the senses, knowledge, fruit of activities, and the path of achieving perfection. Path of achieving perfection is devotional service. That's the only path of achieving real perfection. Sometimes other processes to do with Brahman realization, impersonal processes, or processes like yoga, processes, hatha yoga, that sort of thing, ashtanga yoga. Sometimes they're described as paths of perfection. But strictly speaking, really speaking, when you really get down to it, what is what, then they're not exactly that. They may be, as Lord Krishna describes in regard to karma yoga in the beginning of the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The point is there that what is achieved by karma yoga and bhakti is the same. In a sense, it's like that. In the sense that if you do karma yoga nicely, it'll naturally bring you to bhakti. So if it's done properly, it's just part of a certain procedure which inevitably culminates in bhakti and devotional service. Of course, if you don't do it properly, then you get stuck on that. And indeed, what happens with, at least with people who practice Ashtanga yoga, is sometimes they realize the super soul, and the next step would be to become a devotee. But some of them, they realize the super soul and they think, oh, it's me. Here I am. The last trap, the last pitfall on the path is you're almost there. You're practically there. But then suddenly there's a big diversion. So therefore, there in the beginning of the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada explains that karma yoga is like looking for the root of the tree. The root of the tree is the Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna. Karma yoga means you're trying to locate and come to the root of the tree, the Supreme Lord. Whereas Bhakti Yoga means you're watering the tree. You're serving the Lord himself, who's the root of the tree of existence. So as long as through Karma Yoga one comes to that point, then you can say, yeah, they're the same thing. But there can be problems, as they say, old British saying, there's many a slip twixt cup and lip. Yeah, there's many a mistake between, as you're trying to drink the herbal tea, rooibos tea or something, fruit tea. You know, you bring it to your mouth, but you may spill it still. You're right there, but still you may spill it. So that's what happens to some. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Jai, Shri Giri Govardhan, Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Right, so yes. So therefore, in terms of the path of achieving perfection, some path to do with, like Jnana Yoga, for example, classically, which is part of the process for Brahman realization, as it's meant to happen, if you're then taken from there to Krishna consciousness, then that Jnana Yoga or that otherwise impersonal process taking you to Brahman, then it's part of the path of perfection. And similarly with the mystical yoga, Ashtanga yoga, if as it is meant to, designed to, and if you're guided properly, it will naturally do that. If it's there and it takes you to Krishna and serving Krishna, then that's also part of the path of perfection. But otherwise it's not really part of the path of perfection. It's just some sort of secondary path taking you to some secondary position, which is just not really where you should go. So Lord Shiva, as he's sitting there, the demigods see that he's exuding knowledge, he's situated in austerity, and he's radiating a mood of devotion, yoga patam, path of devotional service. So, and Prabhupada emphasizes in the purport that Lord Shiva is full of wisdom and tapasya, austerity. One who knows the modes of work is understood to be situated on the path of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can't serve the Lord unless one has achieved full perfectional knowledge in the ways and means of performing devotional service. So, yeah, that wisdom, that knowledge, which Lord Shiva is situated in, it's not just some impersonal knowledge or knowledge of that sort, some secondary type of, sort of, you could say, peripheral spiritual knowledge. There's actually knowledge about Krishna. So it's a perfect type of knowledge. There are different levels of knowledge, different degrees. So here we're talking about the topmost degree of knowledge Lord Shiva is situated in. And tapasya, austerity. He is so obviously an austere person because he just lives under a tree. And that's a very extreme way to live. He has no furniture, and there's no actual dwelling place I mean, in the sense of some building or something. He's just living directly under the tree. So, and he doesn't even have regular clothes. Sometimes he has an animal skin. Sometimes he just finds some discarded cloth on the side of the road, and he just takes that and wears that. So even though he's famous as Ashutosh, the demigod who easily fulfills the material desires of the conditioned souls and gives them sometimes great wealth and power and all these types of things, just very extreme amounts of wealth and material facility, but for himself, he takes nothing. He takes nothing at all. So he's very austere. Tapasya. Tapasya is very much a part of the nature of Lord Shiva. But it's not just any sort of tapasya, austerity. Some people, they do like, in the 9th canto is the story of Vrikasura. It's also related to Lord Shiva too, but Vrikasura himself, he thought that he would get the mercy of Lord Shiva if he did something which was very austere, extreme austerity. So he decided to cut flesh from his body and offer it to Lord Shiva until Lord Shiva appeared to give him some mercy. And he was doing that. And actually he had cut off all the flesh. The only thing that was left was his head. And he thought, okay, let's just cut off my head. He was about to do that, and Lord Shiva took pity on him that this fellow is just lost. But anyway, so Lord Shiva came and did actually give him some mercy, you could say, or fulfilled his desire. I mean, that's a whole other story also. But the point we're getting at is about austerity. There are different types of austerity. And austerity like what Vrikasura was doing, Lord Krishna in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita describes it as austerity in the mode of ignorance, when it's harmful. It's harmful to the body. Then it's not really like worthwhile austerity. help that one little bit. So he slapped the man in the face, and the man's head fell off. And that was the end of him for that lifetime. Whereas, just a little later, they met one florist named Sudama, who had loads of beautiful, beautiful flowers, which were also for Kamsa, for the king. And Krishna asked, wouldn't you like to make some garlands for us cowherd boys? And because that florist had a different heart, the state of his heart was completely different. He was a devotee. He was happy to do that. And he used all the flowers on garlands, and he garlanded Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys, and he was very happy. And Krishna blessed him to go back to Godhead. But anyway, Lord Caitanya, what Lord Caitanya was saying, he didn't mention that bit about Sudama, but what Lord Caitanya says is that the laundryman who Krishna slapped in the face and the man's head fell off and he was killed, Lord Caitanya said this person had performed severe austerities for many lifetimes to see God. And finally he saw God. But when he saw God, he offended him. And actually no more is said about the laundryman. So the thing is, Lord Shiva, he's very knowledgeable, but it's worthwhile knowledge. It's knowledge of Krishna consciousness. It's not some impersonal knowledge or just some other type of knowledge. And his austerity is very pious and Krishna conscious austerity. Worthwhile austerity. So means Krishna conscious austerity like what we do. We follow the regulative principles. That's an austerity, of course. It's an austerity. And we get up early in the morning. It's an austerity. And there are restrictions of diet and just what we do. It can all be seen as austerity, but it's auspicious austerity. It's helpful. It's Krishna conscious austerity. It's not just like whatever that laundry man did, just self-denial in the extreme. Only eating certain undesirable things just at very, at times, like not eating very often at all, controlling the breathing, and sitting in one place without moving. In the winter, just sitting outside in the cold, like we were in Newcastle some days ago. In the morning, it was 0 degrees. Sitting outside like that with just a loincloth on. That's an austerity. And in the summer, I saw one yogi in Vrindavan by the Parikrama path. He had fires around him, and he was sitting there, and it was summer. So this is austerity, but it's not actually auspicious or Krishna conscious austerity or austerity which helps one to progress in devotional service, to cultivate a devotional mood. And so therefore that laundryman he had done austerity, but it just hardened his heart. So that when little Krishna, beautiful little Krishna, with the beautiful little cowherd boys and Balaram, and they're just so wonderful, but he spontaneously felt, no, I'm not going to help you at all. And he just rejected them. So that sort of austerity which hardens the heart, that is not what Lord Shiva does. Yeah. And in fact, there's an interesting verse in the Bhagavatam quoted, referred to at least, sort of quoted kind of, at the beginning of the 3rd chapter of Nectar of Devotion. And listen to this. Well, it's the Bhagavatam 11:28, the 8th verse of the 20th chapter of the 11th canto. Yad richaya matkata do, jata shraddhastu yapaman, na nirvino nati sakto, bhakti yogosya siddhida. It's Lord Krishna speaking to Uddhava. If somehow or other by good fortune one develops faith in hearing and chanting my glories, such a person, and this is in this regard the sort of crucial point, such a person being neither very disgusted with nor very much attached to material life should achieve perfection through the path of loving devotion to me. So it's an interesting point. Not too disgusted with this material world, like these people are into these too severe austerities, extreme physical self-denial. But of course, not too attached to those things either. A very balanced sort of consciousness of detachment. That is the mood of Lord Shiva. That is Krishna conscious austerity. Just as Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that devotees they are freed. They perform certain austerities which are the regulative principles of freedom. That's actually what Lord Krishna refers to. The regulative principles of freedom. Freedom from undesirable things, just grossly material things, and freedom to absorb yourself in Krishna consciousness without distraction. That sort of freedom, regulative principles, means austerity, which frees you from undesirable things to do better things. And that's our regulative principles for that matter. Regulative principles of freedom, not just regulative principles of self-denial and regulative principles to make your life difficult and regulative principles to make you uncomfortable. Not like that. But regulative principles which free you from undesirable and actually detrimental things, so you can absorb yourself in very worthwhile things, beneficial things. Absorb yourself in devotional service. So, yes, like this. So therefore, as Prabhupada points out here, that Lord Shiva, by his actions, by the person he is, how he lives and what he is, and it's all visible. They can see it in him as they're approaching him. He teaches all the conditioned souls how to engage in devotional service. It's not necessarily so simple to engage in devotional service properly, to engage in the proper activity as service to Krishna, and to do it in the proper mood, and to just do it in a way which actually pleases Krishna. Yes, it's not necessarily so easy. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada is saying here that one cannot serve the Supreme Lord unless one has achieved full perfectional knowledge in the ways and means of performing devotional service. This, of course, is the very wonderful thing, uniquely wonderful thing in our times about Srila Prabhupada. You know, there's so many people teaching some version of Vaishnavism. I mean, sometimes we compare him with his godbrothers, but there's many people. There are many people who are different types of Vaishnavas, and they're trying to do something as Vaishnavas, but they're just not able to achieve what Prabhupada personally achieved, and they're not able to achieve what can be achieved by those who actually follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions properly and nicely. What they will achieve, in fact. Rather, just one way or another, they'll just remain back in material life. So, yes, this is the special thing, uniquely special thing about Srila Prabhupada, at least in our times, that he achieved full perfectional knowledge in the ways and means of performing devotional service. And of course, he taught that on a vast scale, on such a vast scale. He taught that, he demonstrated and taught it. And in this way, just giving the whole world just more than ample opportunity to perfect their lives, to become devotees and to do devotional service in such a way that the Supreme Lord is satisfied with you, is happy with you. And therefore, we mentioned the other day actually, that in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, from verse 13 to the end of the chapter, verse 20, Lord Krishna lists out all different types of qualities that a devotee may have. And so there's like 8 verses like that. And at the end of each verse, after listing out some more qualities, he says, such a devotee is very dear to me. And Srila Prabhupada, in one class on the first 2 verses in that sequence, verses 13 and 14, Srila Prabhupada begins the class in an interesting way. He says, yes, this is Krishna consciousness. Because the whole point is, Krishna's saying, such a devotee is very dear to me. So Prabhupada says, yes, this is Krishna consciousness. How will Krishna love me? Normally we think, how will I love Krishna? But Prabhupada's turning it around, and it's very interesting. How you can actually become such a person that Krishna will be attracted to you. So that means that one has to understand the ways and means of performing devotional service. Otherwise, a person will make some attempt at devotional service, but may end up offending Krishna, or at least not really pleasing him, doing something kind of useless, or maybe actually offensive. So, yeah, so that's our good fortune to be connected with Srila Prabhupada, who is such a person who's achieved full perfectional knowledge in the ways and means of performing devotional service. And that's Lord Shiva. Vaishnavanam yata Shambho. Lord Shiva is a Vaishnav. Lord Shiva is the greatest Vaishnav. A very, very great Vaishnav, head of a sampradaya. And he teaches all the conditioned souls how to engage in devotional service properly. Therefore, he's Lokamangala, good fortune personified. Hare Krishna. Any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class. I was just wondering, Lord Shiva is performing some severe austerities, and it's likened to the austerities what the others were performing that you mentioned. So would you say that it's a change of consciousness that, makes him the greatest Vaishnava, or basically a devotee of Krishna, where else the others who perform these severe austerities harden their heart? So I'm just trying to figure out.
Well, yes, it's a question of consciousness, but also Lord Shiva and Krishna, for that matter, they have two types of activities. One is exemplary, just showing people. But sometimes they do something just because they want to, and not as an example. And one needs guidance to be able to distinguish between what is exemplary, and Prabhupada in the Krishna book calls it the Ishvara principle. The Ishvara principle, that Krishna sometimes, he just wants to do something. I mean, like dance with the gopis. That's not for us. But many, or a certain number of, Vaishnavas in the broadest sense, they think that it is exemplary. And they actually do it. So, yes. So we need guidance to understand with these great personalities. Lord Shiva smokes daka. It's not exemplary. But some people, they really think it is. Yeah. So unfortunately, they don't have proper guidance. And they, you could also say they don't have proper guidance because they're not in the right consciousness. I mean, that's one way of looking at it. Possibly. But certainly they don't have the right guidance because these personalities, sometimes they do things which, for other reasons than setting examples for regular devotees. Lord Shiva's trying to influence those very low-class people. Therefore he smokes daka. But it's not for the normal devotees, as an example. Is that okay? Oh, yes, Swetadri Prabhu.
But Shiva is very austere. He's sitting in the Himalaya under the tree in snow. But I also feel you are one of the most austere devotee I have ever met, because chanting your japa, maintaining your vows for so many years. Just recently there was some difficulty because you were in hospital. And beside that, you maintained your very pure chanting so many years. This is a big austerity. So,
Well, all I could say is Hare Krishna. Okay, okay. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.